Good morning to everybody. Just before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners for the land on which I'm coming from today, to do an acknowledgement to past, future and present leaders and emerging leaders. I'm coming to you from Cairns, so I'm on Irriganji country this morning. So it was really great to hear the speaker before, and thank you so much, because it almost, we didn't plan it this way, but it's almost like we can tag team off because of the co-benefits and different things. That's what this slide, this presentation will be about. So a big part of what we do is community development, and we see being able to do successful carbon projects and also using the other methodologies as a way of creating lasting wealth within Indigenous communities. And it's also continuing the practice of caring for country, which is thousands of years old. So this is, that's just a little bit about me. That's one of my favourite photos. It's of the Tiwi Island Rangers doing their burn. So this is our vision, and it's to catalyse life-changing community prosperity through carbon farming, and it's evolved into so much more than that. So in doing that, our carbon projects that we're involved with can demonstrate environmental, social and cultural core benefits. So 2.5 years went into developing the core benefits verification framework, and when Rebecca spoke about the LRF just recently, we are embedded within the core benefits. The core benefits verification, sorry, is embedded with the LRF. It's the it's formally embedded in 3 of their 4 projects. Because we love what we do, I will ramble. So at any stage, feel free to pull me back into line. I have copies of the core benefits verification framework, both digitally and in paper form. If anybody would like to have a look, I'm more than happy to share that. So this is just a quick kind of breakdown about how the framework came about over the 2.5 years it took to develop it. And this was the challenge, is how do we facilitate authentic decision making and confidence and self-esteem of Indigenous people to lead a verification. So it's about recognising the knowledge that's already there. So we operate, and we believe very strongly in a strength-based approach rather than a deficit model, which is how we've seen a lot of programs developed in the past. And the strength-based approach has just been adapted by the Closing the Gap report. So we very much go in and see what's already there and build on that rather than going in and looking at what's missing. And it's Indigenous to Indigenous. So we saw, when I was, I used to work at a land council that worked throughout Cape York, and for 20 years, you know, we worked towards native title, and then we thought, oh, well, when the PBCs get created, then that's when real change happens. And we never really saw any kind of movement because there was always consultants from Canberra or the bigger cities coming into Indigenous communities, getting paid, you know, lots of money. And so when we looked at it, we were like, how can we take it back to Indigenous? So not last year, COVID's made me lose track of years. So in 2019, we did our first verification in KOWANYAMA. And what we did was bring Marpoon Rangers over to KOWANYAMA, and it was Indigenous to Indigenous verifying the carbon credits, and it was really successful. It went really well. But there's some of the Indigenous to Indigenous core benefits. I'll just run through this because I also want to share with you 2 really exciting projects that we've got coming out that will answer the question about today's environmental deficit, but also ways forward. So I'll share those with you at the end. So when we go into communities, we make it individually driven by what that community wants. So we go in beforehand and actually spend a lot of time creating relationships and finding out exactly what each individual community wants. And we pushed back on the normal reporting because, as you know, some people will know, is English sometimes is a 3rd language in Aboriginal communities. So we push back on indicators about what makes a successful project. And I'll show you some examples of that. So this is the strength-based model that we were talking about that we always use when we go into communities. I think most people would have heard about that one. And the principles underpinning our approach is to build on the existing reporting and the resources. And we also do visual reporting rather than getting people to write reports. So, you know, we'll get rangers to interview each other about stories and how they burn and different things. And you just get a really rich story when people within the community can video each other. It's more natural. They answer questions in a different way, and it's really special. So it's a celebration. We don't go in there to tell them if they're doing, you know, business right. It's a strength-based, not a deficit, and it's peer-to-peer. So this is just an example of how that can happen and how knowledge sharing happens. And so it's visual by the cards and stuff on the table. This is a really special photo. This was taken in KOWANYAMA, and the giant in the middle, Stafford's about 6'5", so he's to my 5'2", he's a giant. So he's actually a ranger, and all the young guys to his right, they're thinking about becoming a ranger, and then you've got the elder there talking about, you know, how he used to burn and why it's significant. And so you get all those kind of rich stories when you're doing the verification. And the model of RIGOUR is, you know, we do a verification tree, and it's asking the right questions in the right way and asking people in the right way. So the program was developed around how to work best in a community, not the other way around. So we do 5 days when we go in and do our verification. Like I said, the first day, building relationships is really important to us. And then you've got the other days there, and we just take our time and work really slowly in our community's comfort level. And on day 5, at the end of it, we'll have a community barbecue or invite everybody down and show the video and show everybody within the community the work that's being done by the rangers, so everybody is aware of what's been said, to make sure there was no personal family business shared, you know, and that sort of stuff. And then at the end of the week, we leave that video with the community, so it protects their IP as well. So this is just more visually how we do it. We have about 80 picture cards that we put on the floor to start with, and just allow people to walk around and pick up 2 or 3 that speak to them about why, you know, a project would be important to them and what they want to retain. And so that's really interesting watching people do that, because, you know, a picture can mean different things to so many people. So these are the different verification methods, sorry. So as you can see, it's really visual and hands-on, and just, you know, working together. And we find that the stories are always richer shared that way. And these are the verification trees. So these are really interesting as we're working through them. You know, as you can see in the top left one, there's like the yellow that kind of starts as what's important, and then we get people to drill down and bring it into 2 or 3 ideas about what's important to each community. And what is the really beautiful thing about when you do this is when you go in there, Indigenous communities don't start with, we want to do a project because of the money. There's such a richer story underneath it. You know, one of them wanted to bring back this certain type of bee, so the native honey would come back and they could collect that. And, you know, the fire bring back certain grasses that the women need to weave. And what people realise is that the money is a vehicle to maintain traditional practices. And that's when we were up in Darwin, the verification tree, you know, you throw all these colours and stuff down, and we had one of our senior elders in there with glitter pens, and everybody gets really involved in it, which is really a fun process of getting all the ideas down. So then it's a storyboard. We create a storyboard as well, so to write out all the ideas, and then that's what the basis of the video is. This photo here is very special to me. Uncle John Clark from KOWANYAMA has been in my life since I was about 2 years old. He's a very close friend of my father, and he's a senior traditional owner for KOWANYAMA. And when we were talking to him, he took us down to his traditional lands, and instead of, you know, him writing us a report, he was able to show us tree lines and explain story places and different things as a way of verifying that traditional knowledge. So that was a special trip. It was interesting too. Our car broke down. It was a nightmare, but it was really special. And what we found is with the verifiers, these two, the lady you see standing up is Sarah, and the guy right at the front of the frame is called Jason Jaya, and they are Aboriginal rangers from Mapoon, and they were our first rangers to become verifiers. And just seeing them grow through that process. Sarah was someone who worked with us for about 6 months, who I don't even think I heard her voice. And then through this process, she then from this came to Darwin to the national level, and she presented there. It gave her the confidence to go back to her community and apply for a higher role where she's a supervisor now. So it's been really nice to see her kind of step into that power just through the confidence that's gained through running these programs. So there's the, you know, the reasons to become a verifier. And one of the really important things is the role modelling. We've found, you know, like in different communities, it changes the narrative around a welfare dependency. The young fellas then see their cousins or their brothers or whatever, you know, putting on the ranger uniform and being really prideful about it and going off to work and, you know, being able to stay on country and create an income. It's, you know, the role modelling for the next generations is really special to see. So this is more of the visual reports I was talking about. As you can see down the bottom, the right with the senior elder there with the hat on, that's Uncle Donald. And for the photo, he was too busy with his glitter pens to even be concerned about what we were doing. And the top left is rangers interviewing rangers rather than getting them to write reports. And they were actually talking about stories from Dreamtime and how their country looked and why it's important to them to do carbon projects to protect country. And because they interviewed each other, the story was just, yeah, was a lot richer than if one of us had have stuck a camera in their face, I think, or asked them to write a report. So these are the take-home messages from the verification and what we make sure rolls through every community and every training session that we do. We have a lot of fun. Like, we really enjoy what we're doing. You know, we're passionate about it, and we just kind of work with different communities and their strengths. And, you know, you've got some shy ones, so you figure out how to get them involved. Yeah, it's a really special process. And just to see the start to the finish, we did some training with rangers up in Darwin, which is those people that you, the rangers that you just saw. And then afterwards, one of the rangers said if they had have done the training prior to 6 months previous, they would have saved thousands of dollars on a report that they had done, which they then felt empowered to do on their own. So the course that I'm talking about is run by the foundation. It's 2 days of carbon knowledge. It's an accredited course, and it takes people through not the behind the scenes, but the full 360 of what a carbon project looks like. So Rowan will do a live trade of retiring the accus. They can see how a SAVBAT report is produced and read when it goes to the Clean Energy Regulator, how those are recorded. It shows you the full 360. And then Lisa then does the 2 days of the verification training. So it's about, we try to aim for a full week in the communities. So yeah, start with what you know, build with what you have. And that's a saying that I had seen that I really liked, is when you point out people's strengths, they grow in confidence. They know you see them, you see the whole individual, not just an empty vessel that needs to be filled with your knowledge. And this is a really special photo. So that's Uncle John Clark, and they're sitting in a dry riverbed in KOWANYAMA, and that's the other two Indigenous rangers from Mapoon who came over to verify KOWANYAMA credit, and that's how they did it. They just, you know, went on country and shared stories and different things. That has to be one of my favourite photos, that one. So some other things. I don't know if I'm going over time, but
we're running out of time, Shilo. Can you summarise, conclude?
Yeah, absolutely. So so that's our core benefits verification framework, and that allows companies to meet things like social development goals, reconciliation action plans, and different things, because our carbon credits are sold with that cultural credit attached to it and verified. Two of the really exciting projects that we're working on at the moment, we have almost finished developing what's called a cultural fire credit. So we do a lot of work with WWF, and in talking to them, we approached them for some funding to work with, I don't know if people have heard of the Fire Stick Alliance, with Victor Stephenson, that you know, is doing amazing work and has kicked off in a really big way since the Sydney wildfires. So we are, in collaboration with the Fire Stick Alliance, we're creating a cultural fire credit, which will mean that traditional owners from all over Australia can do carbon projects, because currently carbon projects for the burning can only happen in Savannah country, which is Cape York and parts of the Northern Territory. So if traditional owners from Tasmania, Western Australia, Perth, if they do fires traditionally, they can earn credits the same as a cultural burn. We've also just about to launch, we're 3/4 of the way through, Griffith University has created a trading platform for us, and we will have 6 methodologies, 2 of which are ACCUs and 3 are different, that will feed into the trading platform that will allow people to buy carbon credits to offset their footprint in a much easier way. So a student can go on and buy carbon credits to make their travel carbon neutral. You know, mum and dad can do their households. So it will essentially be like a bank of where these carbon credits are, and people can go on and actually start to purchase it to become carbon neutral. So we're really, really excited about that too. That'll be just an app that you go into and use. So yeah, Griffith University's almost finished that for us. So yeah, lots of exciting things coming. We've got a big 12 months ahead of us, but we're super excited about it.